Hold on, stop. If you love fighting games, this is your place. I will cover all fighting games ever released on the PlayStation 1 in this video, minus the fighting games based on real-world sports. Why? Just because I feel like so. But if you love fighting games or you are just a fan of the PlayStation 1 console, this next video got you covered. In 1997, Bloody Roar, known in Europe and Japan as Bloody Roar Hyper Beast Duel, burst onto the arcade scene developed by Raising and published by Hudson Soft. The game tells the story of a secret group of warriors called the Zoanthropes, humans with the extraordinary ability to transform into powerful half-human, half-animal forms known as beasts. Central to the plot is the Tylum Corporation, a shadowy organization determined to exploit the Zoanthropes' abilities, turning them into mind-controlled weapons for their sinister goals. In this game, players dive into intense, fast-paced battles where transformation isn't just a mechanic, it's a survival instinct. In 1995, Battle Arena Toshinden marked a turning point in fighting games, introducing a new dimension, well, literally. Developed by Temsoft and published by Takara, this weapon-based 3D fighter was a launch title for the PlayStation and a shining example of the console's early capabilities. Set in a mysterious tournament, 8 unique anime-inspired fighters designed by artist Tsukasa Kotobuki clash for personal glory and hidden agendas. What set really Toshinden apart was its innovative sidestep mechanic, pushing the genre into true 3D. Critics also praised its graphical sophistication, with effects like shading giving characters and stages a refined futuristic look. Released by Taito in 1996, Psychic Force took the fighting game formula and placed it in a truly unique setting, a cubic arena suspended in mid-air. Fighters equipped with psychic powers clash in this force field with every move, attack and strategy heightened by the confines of the supernatural battlefield. The game blends the visual flair of 3D with the simplicity of 2D mechanics, creating a hybrid experience. Walls aren't just barriers, they are weapons, as characters can slam their opponents into them to deal extra damage, adding a layer of tactical depth to each encounter. In 1998, Destrega emerged as a unique entry in the fighting game genre, developed by Omega Force and published by Koei. Set in a world where ancient relics hold mystical powers, the game weaves a tale of rebellion against a tyrannical empire seeking to control these artifacts. What made Destrega stand out was its innovative freedom of movement within expansive arenas. Players could dash, jump and launch attacks from any range, creating dynamic and fluid battles. Its rock-paper-scissors inspired combat system added layers of strategy, challenging players to outthink their opponents in a way unlike traditional fighting games. Tekken debuted in the arcades in 1994 and its PlayStation release in 1995 marked the beginning of one of gaming's most iconic franchises. Developed by Namco, the game introduced players to the King of Iron Fist tournament hosted by the powerful Mishima Zaibatsu. The narrative centers on Kazuya Mishima, a man consumed by vengeance against his father Heihachi Mishima. Tekken distinguished itself with its revolutionary use of 3D animation, detailed character models, and a combat system that balanced accessibility with depth. This was a game that laid the groundwork for a legendary series. Released on the PlayStation in 1996, Tekken 2 took the foundation of its predecessor and built upon it with remarkable advancements. The game expanded the roster to 25 fighters, introducing now iconic characters like Jun Kazama and Lei Wulong. The story also deepened, shifting focus to Kazuya Mishima, now in control of the Mishima Zaibatsu and his quest to maintain power against his father's return. On the gameplay front, new mechanics like counters and enhanced throws added in for complexity. With its stunning visuals and cinematic character endings, Tekken 2 solidified Namco's dominance in the genre. Tekken 3, released in 1997, marked a transformative moment for the series. Set 20 years after the events of Tekken 2, the game introduces a new generation of fighters, including Jin Kazama and Ling Xiaoyu, while retaining fan favorites. Built on Namco's new System 12 hardware, Tekken 3 brought faster, smoother gameplay, introducing sidestepping for greater 3D mobility. The PlayStation version in 1998 added modes like Tekken Force and Tekken Ball, broadening the game's appeal. With its refined mechanics and unmatched depth, Tekken 3 became a milestone in fighting games and a cultural phenomenon. Tobal No. 1 was released exclusively for the PlayStation in 1996, developed by Dream Factory and published by Square. As Square's first entry into the fighting game genre, it was designed by Seiichi Ishii, known for his work on Virtua Fighter and Tekken, with character designs by Akira Toriyama of the Dragon Ball fame. The game stood out with its fluid 60 FPS gameplay offering smooth character movement and responsive controls. Unlike many fighters of its time, Tobal No. 1 allowed for full 3D movement, letting players sidestep, dash, jump and precisely target attack. Its grappling and throw mechanics also added strategic depth, rewarding well-timed counters and positioning. However, one of its most unique elements was the quest mode, a dungeon crawling adventure that blended RPG elements with fighting mechanics. Players explored labyrinthian environments, fought enemies and gathered items, adding a layer of that beyond standard one-on-one battles. In 1997, Tobal 2 refined and expanded upon its predecessor, though it remained a Japan-exclusive release. Building on the innovative mechanics of Tobal No. 1, the sequel introduced improved visuals, an unblockable fireball attack for each character, and a more complex quest mode featuring 6 detailed dungeons. The game's release coincided with Sony's dual analog controller, showing its compatibility with advanced controls. Despite its limited availability, Tobal No. 2 is often celebrated as one of the most polished fighting games of its time. In 1997, Bushido Blade broke the mold of traditional fighting games, introducing a revolutionary approach to combat. Developed by Lightweight and published by Square for the PlayStation, this one-on-one fighter was built on the principles of realism and honor, drawing inspiration from the Japanese warrior code of Bushido. Unlike most fighting games of the time, Bushido Blade stripped away the usual health bars and timers, opting instead for a more visceral, impactful system. With its unique body damage system, a single strike could lead to instant death, and even non-lethal blows had significant consequences. The combat itself took place in large, expansive 3D environments, and the player could explore these open spaces freely during battle, adding a dynamic element not seen in other fighting games. Players could choose from 8 different weapons, including the katana, nodachi, broadsword, and sledgehammer, each offering a distinct fighting style and set of abilities. By 2002, the PlayStation was in its twilight years, but Gundam Battle Assault 2 proved that the console still had fight left in it. Developed by Natsume and published by Bandai, this sequel refined its predecessor's formula, delivering a faster, more polished and content-packed experience for fans of both fighting games and the Gundam franchise. Stepping into the cockpit of legendary mobile suits from several iterations, players engaged in high-stakes duels that captured the intensity of the anime. With a roster over 30 mobile suits, the game offered an unprecedented level of variety for a true Gundam fighter. Combat was fast, weighty, and strategic. Players balanced melee strikes, beam rifles, and special attacks while managing their mobile suit's energy. Beyond the action, Battle Assault 2 introduced a range of modes as well. Story mode versus survival, giving players plenty of ways to test their piloting skills. And with destructible environments and flashy hand-drawn sprites, it captured the cinematic feel of the Gundam universe in a way few games had before. In 1996, Street Fighter Alpha 2 brought Capcom's legendary fighting franchise to the PlayStation, delivering one of the most celebrated entries in the series. Known as Street Fighter 02 in Japan, this game wasn't just an update. It was a full-blown evolution of the Alpha series, offering deeper mechanics, refined visuals, and an unforgettable roster. Set in the timeline between Street Fighter and Street Fighter 2, Alpha 2 expands on the storyline with new characters, rivalries, and stages. The gameplay took the series' core mechanics and elevated them. The custom combo system allowed players to unleash devastating high-speed attack chains by activating the Super Meter. Super moves return with greater visual flair alongside counterattacks and air blocking. On the PlayStation, Street Fighter Alpha 2 faced hardware limitations compared to its arcade counterpart. Load times and minor graphical downgrades were noticeable. But Capcom made up for it with a wealth of content. Versus mode, training mode, and hidden characters kept fans engaged for hours. What truly set the game apart was its art direction. Vibrant backgrounds filled with detail brought life to stages like the bustling streets of Japan and the quiet gardens of Gen's hideout. Character animations flowed with fluidity, and every punch, kick, and fireball resonated with power, all underscored by an energetic soundtrack. Marvel vs. Capcom Clash of Superheroes landed on the PlayStation with bringing the chaotic, high-energy battles of Capcom's crossover universe into homes worldwide. This game wasn't just another fighting game, it was a celebration of two iconic worlds colliding. Marvel superheroes like Spider-Man, Wolverine and Hulk team up or clash with Capcom legends such as Ryu, Chun-Li and Morrigan. The game's central plot involves Marvel superheroes battling alongside Capcom fighters to stop the infamous Onslaught, a powerful villain born from the Marvel universe. The gameplay was fast, dynamic and unlike anything else. Players for two character teams switching between fighters mid-battle to execute devastating combos. On the PlayStation, Marvel vs. Capcom faced technical challenges due to the hardware limitations. The game's famous tag team mechanic was scaled back with a single fighter on each side, but Capcom compensated by letting the players call assists and introducing the innovative cross-fever mode for 2-on-2 battles. Despite compromises, the PlayStation version maintained the heart of the arcade experience. The soundtrack blended heroic themes with classic Capcom flair, setting the tone for battles that felt larger than life. Released in 2001 for the PlayStation, X-Men Mutant Academy 2 was developed by Paradox Development and published by Activision. Building on the foundation of its predecessor, this 2.5D fighting game featured an expanded roster of characters from the X-Men universe, including fan favorites like Wolverine, Cyclops, Storm and Magneto, alongside a few surprise guest appearances such as Spider-Man. The gameplay focused on fast-paced combo-driven combat, with each character showcasing their unique powers and fighting styles. The environments were richly inspired by the iconic locations from the X-Men comics such as the Danger Room and the Savage Land, adding to the immersive experience. Players could enjoy various game modes, including a robust arcade mode and a training mode that allowed them to refine their skills. What set X-Men Mutant Academy 2 apart was its accessibility for newcomers while still providing depth for seasoned players. The combat system rewarded skillful execution and strategy, making it a standout title in the era of PlayStation fighting games. The game's vibrant presentation and attention to detail cemented it as a beloved adaptation of the X-Men universe for fans and gamers alike.
And now, a short commercial break.
It'll all be over soon. It'll all be over soon. It'll all be over soon. That's it. Oh, that wasn't too bad.
Jurassic Park Warpath, released for the PlayStation in 1999, was developed by Black Ops Entertainment and published by Electronic Arts. This fighting game brought a unique twist to the genre by pitting prehistoric creatures against one another in intense one-on-one battles. Drawing inspiration from the Jurassic Park franchise, the game captured the raw power and primal fury of the dinosaurs within an arena-based combat system. The roster featured a variety of dinosaur species, including fan favorites like the T-Rex, Velociraptor and Spinosaurus, but as well as lesser known but equally ferocious creatures like the Ankylosaurus and Stygimoloch. Each dinosaur was meticulously animated with movements and attacks reflecting their unique characteristics. Battles took place in dynamic arenas inspired by settings from the Jurassic Park films, such as research facilities and lush jungles, which added a layer of immersion to the gameplay. The combat system emphasized strategic use of the dinosaurs' distinct abilities, blending heavy and light attacks with special moves and counters. Players could engage in single-player modes such as arcade and survival, or challenge friends in local multiplayer matches. Jurassic Park Warpath stood out for its innovative concept and faithful homage to the Jurassic Park universe, offering a novel experience for fans of both fighting games and dinosaurs. Dead or Alive for the PlayStation, released in 1998, was developed by Team Ninja and published by Tecmo. Originally debuting in arcades in 1996, the game made its way to the PlayStation with enhancements and additional features. It introduced a fast-paced, dynamic fighting system that distinguished itself with its emphasis on counters and environmental interaction. The game's plot revolves around the Dead or Alive World Combat Championship, a tournament organized by a sinister corporation. Fighters from around the world participate, each with their unique motivations, backstories and fighting styles. The roster includes notable characters like Kasumi, a runaway ninja seeking revenge, Ryu Hayabusa, a crossover from Tecmo's Ninja Gaiden series, and Tina Armstrong, a wrestler aspiring to fame. One of Dead or Alive's defining features was its counter-based combat system, which added a layer of strategy by allowing players to reverse their opponent's attacks with precise timing. The game also introduced interactive environments with hazards like exploding floors and multi-tier stages, creating a dynamic battlefield. The combination of speed, fluidity and innovation in gameplay set it apart from fighters of its era. The PlayStation version added new modes, improved graphics and enhanced character models compared to its arcade counterpart. Dead or Alive earned recognition for its technical achievements and became the foundation for one of the most enduring franchises in fighting game history. Mortal Kombat Trilogy was released on the PlayStation in 1996 by Midway Games as the ultimate compilation of the series' early years. Expanding upon the foundation laid by Mortal Kombat 3 and Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3, this installment brings together every character from the first 3 games, including hidden and previously unplayable fighters. The game retains the franchise's signature brutal combat, complete with fatalities, brutalities and animalities, while introducing the aggressor meter, a new mechanic that temporarily boosts attack speed and damage. While the PlayStation version benefits from faster load times and smooth gameplay, it lacks some of the fluidity of the arcade originals. Still, as a nostalgic celebration of Mortal Kombat's golden era, Mortal Kombat Trilogy remains a fan favorite. This 3D fighting game stands out with its unique high school themed cast featuring students, teachers and faculty members from various fictional schools in Japan. The story revolves around a series of mysterious kidnappings and attacks on students, leading different school factions to investigate the cause while settling their rivalries through combat. The gameplay introduces a dynamic tag team system allowing players to switch between 2 characters during fights and execute powerful team-up attacks. The PlayStation version expands on the arcade release by adding an exclusive second disc with extra modes including mini-games and character-specific story content. With its fast-paced action, flashy special moves and vibrant anime-inspired presentation, Rival Schools United by Fate remains a cult classic among Capcom's fighting game lineup. Darkstalkers 3, developed and published by Capcom, was released on the PlayStation in 1998. As the third main entry in the Darkstalkers series, the game continues its signature gothic horror aesthetic with a diverse cast of supernatural warriors, including vampires, werewolves, succubi and mummies. The story follows the rise of the dark entity Jeddah, who seeks to reshape the demon realm by absorbing powerful souls into his dimension. This sets the stage for a battle between the returning Darkstalkers and new challengers. Gameplay-wise, Darkstalkers 3 introduces a new damage gauge system where rounds flow continuously without resetting health bars, making fights feel more dynamic. The PlayStation version features additional modes and character variations, including a so-called X option that let players customize their movesets. While some arcade features were scaled down due to the hardware limitations, Darkstalkers 3 remains a beloved installment known for its fast-paced combat, vibrant animation, and distinct horror fantasy atmosphere. X-Men vs Street Fighter, developed and published by Capcom, was released on the PlayStation in 1998. This crossover fighting game brings together iconic characters from Marvel's X-Men universe and Capcom's Street Fighter series, marking the first entry in the Marvel vs Capcom franchise. Players choose from a roster featuring X-Men favorites like Wolverine, Cyclops and Rogue, alongside Street Fighter legends such as Ryu, Ken and Chun-Li. The game's premise revolves around Apocalypse, the powerful mutant villain, setting the stage for an epic battle between these two worlds. While the arcade version is famous for its tag team system allowing players to switch between 2 fighters mid-match, the PlayStation port removes this feature due to hardware limitations, instead using a traditional single-character format. Despite this drawback, X-Men vs Street Fighter retains its fast-paced combat, flashy super moves and vibrant comic book-inspired visuals, making it a standout title for fighting game fans on the PS1. Battle Arena Toshinden 2, developed by Temsoft and published by Takara, was released on the PlayStation in 1996 as a sequel to the original Battle Arena Toshinden. This 3D weapon-based fighting game builds upon its predecessor by introducing new characters, refined mechanics and enhanced visuals. The game follows a new tournament organized by a secret society drawing returning fighters along with new challengers. Each character wields a unique weapon and battles take place in fully 3D arenas, allowing for sidestepping and evasive maneuvers, an innovation at the time. The gameplay refines its combo system and special moves by introducing counterattacks and new super moves, giving fights a more strategic edge. With improved graphics, smoother animation and deeper combat system, Battle Arena Toshinden 2 aimed to cement its place in the emerging 3D fighting genre, competing with titles like Tekken 2 and Soul Blade. Battle Arena Toshinden 3, developed by Temsoft and published by Takara yet again, was released for the PlayStation in 1997 as the third installment in the Toshinden series. Unlike its predecessor, this entry focused on a faster, more combo-heavy combat system, making significant changes to the franchise's core mechanics. The game's story revolves around a new underground tournament hosted by a sinister organization. Returning fighters like Eiichi Shinjo and Vermilion are joined by a massive roster of new characters, many of whom serve as counterparts to existing fighters. The game ditches the ring-out mechanic of the previous titles, keeping battles confined to enclosed arenas. Combat is more fluid, emphasizing chain combos and counterattacks, bringing the series closer to the style of Tekken and Street Fighter X. With a darker tone, improved speed, and a large character roster, Battle Arena Toshinden 3 was an ambitious step forward for the franchise. However, it was overshadowed by competing 3D fighters of the era and remains the last mainline Toshinden game before the series faded into obscurity. BioFreaks, developed by Sapphire and published by Midway, was released for the PlayStation in 1998. It is a 3D fighting game set in a dystopian cyberpunk future where corporations rule America and bioengineered warriors known as Freaks, aka Federal Reserve Enforcement ass-kickers, battle for dominance. The game features a dark, violent aesthetic with grotesquely modified fighters, each equipped with cybernetic enhancements, weapons, and the ability to fly using jetpacks. Unlike traditional fighters, BioFreaks incorporates multi-tiered arenas, limb dismemberment mechanics, and ranged attacks, allowing players to engage in brutal, fast-paced combat. Fighters, for example, can lose arms mid-battle but still continue fighting, emphasizing the game's over-the-top brutality. Despite its unique mechanics and intense gore, BioFreaks struggled to stand out against other 3D fighters of the late 90s. While it gained a cult following for its distinct style and violent gameplay, it ultimately remained as a one-off experiment rather than a lasting franchise. Bloody Roar 2, developed by A-Ting and Hudson Soft, was released for the PlayStation in 1999. A sequel to the original Bloody Roar, this 3D fighting game builds upon its predecessor unique Beast Mode mechanic where fighters can transform into powerful animal hybrids mid-battle. The game introduces a new storyline featuring a war between zoanthropes, the humans who can transform into beasts, while expanding its roster with returning and new characters. Each fighter has a distinct beast form, ranging from tigers and wolves to moles and bats, adding a strategic layer to the combat. Gameplay in Bloody Roar 2 refines the fast-paced combo-heavy mechanics of the original with smoother animations, better hit detection, and an improved beast gauge system. Players can unleash devastating attacks and transformations, with battles becoming more intense as characters shift between human and beast forms. With its fluid combat, engaging transformations, and a unique identity among PlayStation fighters, Bloody Roar 2 became a cult classic and it's still regarded as one of the standout titles in the series. Bushido Blade 2, developed by Lightweight and published by Square, was released for the PlayStation in 1998 as a sequel to the groundbreaking Bushido Blade. Like its predecessor, it emphasizes realistic sword combat, abandoning traditional fighting game mechanics such as health bars and time limits in favor of one-hit kills and deep damage system. Set in feudal Japan, the story revolves around the rivalry between two warrior factions, the Kagami and the Narukagami, who are locked in a deadly feud. Players choose from a variety of samurai warriors, each wielding unique weapons such as katanas, spears, and nodachis with the ability to critically wound or instantly defeat opponents depending on the precision of their strikes. The sequel refines movement and adds more fluid animations, along with a wider selection of weapons and characters. Unlike the first game, Bushido Blade 2 introduces a more structured story mode, offering set encounters rather than complete free-roaming battles. However, it retains the open, arena-like environments where players can engage in duels with tactical positioning and strategic strikes. With its unique mechanics and emphasis on realism, Bushido Blade 2 remains a distinctive entry in the fighting game genre, offering an experience unlike traditional arcade-style brawlers. Capcom Generation 5 Street Fighter 2 is a compilation release for the PlayStation in 1998 as part of the Capcom Generation series, which celebrated Capcom's classic arcade titles. This particular entry focuses on the Street Fighter 2 series, featuring 3 legendary versions of the game: Street Fighter 2 The World Warrior, Street Fighter 2 Champion Edition, and Street Fighter 2 Turbo Hyper Fighting. Each game retains its original arcade gameplay, offering players a faithful recreation of the Street Fighter 2 experience. The compilation also includes a history mode, artwork, and other extras to provide insight into the evolution of the series. Despite its appeal to the retro enthusiasts, the PlayStation version suffers from longer load times compared to its arcade and other console counterparts. However, Capcom Generation 5 remains a valuable collection for fans looking to experience the origins of one of the most influential fighting game franchises in gaming history. Capcom vs SNK Pro is an enhanced version of Capcom vs SNK Millennium Fight 2000. It was released for the PlayStation in 2002, developed by Capcom. This crossover fighter brings together characters from two of the most legendary fighting game franchise, Street Fighter and the King of Fighters, for an intense, fast-paced competition. The game features a roster of over 30 characters, including iconic fighters like Ryu, Ken, Kyo, and Terry Bogard. Pro introduces two additional characters, Dan Hibiki from Street Fighter Alpha and Joe Higashi from Fatal Fury, adding more variety to the lineup. A key aspect of the gameplay is the groove system, which allows players to choose between Capcom's A groove and SNK's S groove, each affecting gameplay mechanics like super meter charging and combo execution. While the PlayStation version suffers from some graphical downgrades and missing animation frames compared to its arcade and Dreamcast counterparts, it remains a solid entry in the Capcom vs SNK series. It also serves as a precursor to the more refined Capcom vs SNK 2, further cementing the legacy of crossover fighting games. Cardinal Syn is a 3D fighting game developed by Chronos Digital Entertainment and published by Sony Computer Entertainment for the PlayStation in 1998. The game follows in the footsteps of Mortal Kombat and Battle Arena Toshinden, offering weapon-based combat with a dark fantasy setting. Set in a world divided by varying factions, the game story revolves around a powerful figure known as Syn, who manipulates warriors into fighting each other for her own amusement. Players choose from a diverse cast of characters, each hailing from unique factions with distinct fighting styles and weapons. The combat system incorporates free movement within 3D arenas, allowing players to sidestep attacks and use environmental hazards. Characters wield various weapons, from swords to axes, and can execute special moves and brutal finishers reminiscent of Mortal Kombat. While Cardinal Syn featured detailed character designs and a rich lore, it received mixed reviews due to its clunky controls and imbalanced combat mechanics. However, its dark fantasy atmosphere and unique setting helped it stand out among other fighters on the PlayStation. Darkstalkers: The Night Warriors is a 2D fighting game developed and published by Capcom, first released in the arcades in 1994 before being ported to the PlayStation in 1996. It introduced players to a cast of monstrous fighters inspired by horror and mythology, setting itself apart from Capcom's Street Fighter series with its darker aesthetic and supernatural themes. The game features 10 unique characters, including Demitri the Vampire, Morrigan the Succubus, and Felicia the Catwoman. Each fighter possesses distinct abilities and special moves, taking advantage of the fast-paced combat system that incorporates chain combos, air blocking, and enhanced special attacks. The PlayStation version offers a faithful arcade experience but suffers from longer load times compared to the original. Despite this, Darkstalkers: The Night Warriors remains a beloved classic praised for its fluid animation, vibrant gothic art style, and the foundation it set for future entries in the Darkstalkers series. Dragon Ball GT Final Bout is a 3D fighting game developed by TUSE and published by Bandai. Originally released for the PlayStation in Japan and North America in 1997, it later received a release in 2004 due to the growing popularity of Dragon Ball Z in the West. The game features a roster of characters primarily from Dragon Ball GT, but also includes iconic fighters from the Dragon Ball Z and original Dragon Ball. Players can take control of characters like Goku, Vegeta, Trunks, and Cell, with several transformations available such as the Super Saiyan forms. The gameplay revolves around slow-paced 3D arena battles with an emphasis on cinematic special moves and beam struggles, replicating the high-energy combat of the anime. While the game was praised for its visuals and voice acting, it was criticized for its sluggish controls and unbalanced mechanics. Despite this, Final Bout remains a nostalgic title for Dragon Ball fans, being the first Dragon Ball game to feature fully polygonal 3D character models. Dragon Ball Z Ultimate Battle 22 is a 2D fighting game developed by TUSE and published by Bandai. Originally released in Japan for the PlayStation in 1995, it later saw a European release in 1996 and a North American release in 2003, long after its initial debut. The game features a roster of 22 playable characters from the Dragon Ball Z anime, including Goku, Vegeta, Frieza, and Cell. Hidden mode unlocks 5 additional fighters, bringing the total to 27. Each character has their signature moves such as Kamehameha and Final Flash, with combat focusing on classic one-on-one battles with large detailed sprites. While Ultimate Battle 22 was notable for its character selections and anime-style presentation, it received mixed to negative reviews due to its sluggish gameplay, stiff controls, and outdated mechanics by the time it reached Western audiences. Despite its shortcomings, the game holds nostalgic value for fans of the series and was one of the earliest Dragon Ball Z games available on the PlayStation. Ehrgeiz is a 3D fighting game developed by Dream Factory and published by Squaresoft. Originally released in the arcades in 1998, it was later ported to the PlayStation in 1999. The game is best known for featuring several characters from Final Fantasy VII, including Cloud Strife, Tifa Lockhart, and Sephiroth, alongside an original cast of fighters. The core gameplay of Ehrgeiz revolves around fast-paced multi-directional combat in fully 3D arenas, allowing players to move freely and attack from different angles. The game includes a variety of combat mechanics such as running, jumping, and using weapons, making it stand out from traditional 3D fighters of its time. In addition to the standard fighting game, Ehrgeiz features a unique RPG-style dungeon crawling mode called Quest Mode: The Forsaken Dungeon, where players explore levels, battle enemies, and upgrade their characters. This mode adds a significant single-player experience beyond the standard fighting gameplay. While praised for its innovative mechanics and Final Fantasy VII crossover appeal, Ehrgeiz received mixed reviews for its floaty controls and chaotic combat. Despite this, it remains a cult classic among fighting game fans and Final Fantasy enthusiasts. Evil Zone is a 3D fighting game developed by Yuke's and published by Taito Software in North America and by Yuke's in Japan. It was released for the PlayStation in 1999. The game is known for its unique presentation featuring a strong anime aesthetic and a story mode that plays out like an episodic anime series, with each character having their own fully voiced cutscenes. The story revolves around a mystical dimension called Ai Praseru, where warriors from different worlds have been summoned to defeat the powerful sorceress Ai Hadurka. Each fighter has their own motivations and narrative arcs that unfold through cinematic storytelling. Unlike traditional fighting games, Evil Zone features a simplified one-button combat system. Players use a single attack button in combination with directional inputs to execute a variety of moves, including melee strikes, projectiles, and special attacks. This streamlined approach makes the game accessible while still allowing for strategic gameplay. Despite mixed reviews at launch, mainly due to its simplicity and repetitive mechanics, Evil Zone has gained a cult following for its unique style, engaging character designs, and anime-inspired presentation. Fatal Fury Wide Ambition is a 3D fighting game developed by SNK and released in arcades in 1999 before being ported to the PlayStation later that year. As part of the Fatal Fury series, it serves as a reimagining of the original game but with 3D graphics and gameplay mechanics adapted for the new dimension. The story follows the conflict between Terry Bogard and his longtime rival Geese Hauer set in Southtown where fighters battle for dominance. It introduces a mix of classic Fatal Fury characters and a few new ones, all rendered in polygonal 3D models rather than the series' traditional 2D sprites. The gameplay retains the series' signature mechanics including power go for super moves and just defense. However, unlike previous Fatal Fury titles, Wide Ambition removes the traditional two-plane battle system and instead focuses on sidestepping for evasion similar to other 3D fighters of the era. While the PlayStation port lacked the visual fidelity of the arcade version, it added exclusive content such as new characters and enhanced modes. Despite mixed reviews at the time, Fatal Fury Wide Ambition remains a unique entry in SNK's long-running fighting game legacy. Fighter Maker is a 3D fighting game and game development tool developed by ASCII Corporation and was released for the PlayStation in 1999. Unlike traditional fighting games, Fighter Maker allows players to create and customize their own fighters complete with unique movesets and animations. Rather than focusing on a preset roster of characters, the game provides an in-depth creation system where players can adjust nearly every aspect of a fighter's attacks, movement, and special moves. The animation editor is particularly detailed, enabling frame-by-frame adjustment for strikes, combos, and defensive maneuvers. Gameplay-wise, Fighter Maker features a basic fighting game mode where players can test their custom creations against AI or other players. However, the primary appeal lies in its editing tools rather than its competitive gameplay. Due to the PlayStation's hardware limitations, the animations and controls can feel stiff compared to the established fighting games of the time. While Fighter Maker was a niche title, it laid the groundwork for later user-generated content in fighting games. The series continued with Fighter Maker 2 on the PlayStation 2, offering expanded customization options. Gekido Urban Fighters is a 3D beat-em-up developed by Neps Team and published by Infogrames for the PlayStation in 2000. Taking inspiration from classic arcade brawlers like Final Fight and Streets of Rage, Gekido delivers fast-paced combat with a modernized presentation. The game follows a gritty, urban storyline involving gangs, corruption, and a missing girl named Angela. Players take control of one of 4 martial arts experts, Tetsu, Ushi, Travis, or Michelle, each with unique fighting styles and special moves. The gameplay features free-flowing combo attacks, throws and special techniques, as well as variety of enemy types and powerful bosses. With its comic book-inspired art direction, techno soundtrack and dynamic camera angles, Gekido sets itself apart from traditional side-scrolling brawlers. It also includes multiple gameplay modes such as story mode, survival, and a two-player cooperative mode adding to its replayability. Gundam Battle Assault is a 2D fighting game developed by Natsume and published by Bandai for the PlayStation in 2000. As part of the long-running Mobile Suit Gundam franchise, the game brings iconic mechs from the series into one-on-one battles, blending traditional fighting mechanics with the scale and power of giant mobile suits. The game features a roster of fan-favorite Gundams from various Gundam anime series, including Mobile Suit Gundam, Gundam Wing, and G Gundam. Each suit has unique battles, weapons, and special attacks, staying faithful to their anime counterparts. Combat emphasizes weighty, powerful strikes, ranged beam attacks, and a boost system that allows for quick aerial maneuvers. With detailed sprite work, destructible environments, and cinematic special moves, Gundam Battle Assault delivers a distinct experience within the fighting game genre. The game includes an arcade story mode, versus mode, and a survival mode, offering multiple ways to engage in the mecha combat. Iron and Blood Warriors of Ravenloft is a 3D fighting game developed by Take-Two Interactive and published by Acclaim for the PlayStation in 1996. The game is based on the Ravenloft setting from Dungeons & Dragons, incorporating gothic horror elements into its dark fantasy world. Set in the land of Ravenloft, the game pits warriors, monsters, and legendary characters against each other in brutal one-on-one combat. The roster includes fighters from both good and evil factions, each with unique abilities drawn from the Dungeons & Dragons lore. Players can choose between standard versus battles or a more strategy quest mode where they manage a team of warriors and fight to gain power within the Cursed Realm. The gameplay features 3D movement, weapon-based combat, and magic attacks, though its stiff controls and sluggish animations were often criticized. Despite its unique horror fantasy theme and ties to Dungeons & Dragons, Iron and Blood struggled to compete with more refined fighters of the era, remaining a niche title with cult appeal. Kickboxing was developed by Joruden, published by D3 Publisher in Japan and Agitech in North America for the PlayStation. This title focuses on the sport of kickboxing, offering a mix of realistic martial arts combat with arcade-style mechanics. Players can choose from a variety of fighters, each with unique fighting styles, strengths, and weaknesses. The game features multiple modes, including a career mode where players train and compete in matches to become the champion. The gameplay emphasizes timing, stamina management, and strategy, requiring players to carefully balance offense and defense. While it wasn't widely recognized title compared to other fighting games on the PlayStation, it provided an experience tailored for fans of arcade-style kickboxing and martial arts games. Killing Zone is a 3D fighting game developed by Scarab and published by Nexus Soft for the PlayStation in 1996 in Japan and 1997 in North America. The game stands out for its unique premise, featuring a roster of monstrous and mythical creatures, such as skeletons, minotaurs, and golems battling in one-on-one combat. Unlike traditional fighting games that focus on human characters, Killing Zone delivers a supernatural twist, drawing inspiration from fantasy and horror elements. Gameplay-wise, Killing Zone uses a 3D fighting engine similar to early Tekken or Battle Arena Toshinden with side-stepping mechanics and combo-based combat. However, the controls and hit detection have been criticized for being clunky and unresponsive. The game features standard fighting modes including arcade-style progression and versus battles, but lacks depth compared to more polished titles in the genre. Despite its unique character roster, Killing Zone struggled to compete with more refined fighting games of the era, after being remembered as a niche or obscure title in the PlayStation's extensive fighting game library. The King of Fighters 95 was released on the PlayStation in 1996, following its original arcade and Neo Geo debut in 1995. Developed and published by SNK, the game is the second entry in the long-running King of Fighters series and introduced several key improvements over its predecessor, the King of Fighters 94. The game story continues the Orichi saga with the return of Rugal Bernstein, who has survived his apparent death from the previous tournament. Now even more powerful, he hosts another King of Fighters tournament, attracting fighters from around the world. This installment also introduces one of the series' most iconic characters, Iori Yagami, a powerful rival to protagonist Kyo Kusanagi. A major innovation in King of Fighters 95 is the Team Edit system, which allows players to create custom teams by selecting any 3 characters. This was a major departure from the fixed teams of the previous game and became a defining feature of the series. The gameplay retains the fast-paced technical combat that SNK fighters are known for, including super moves, dodging, and team-based mechanics. The PlayStation port features some compromises due to the hardware limitations, most notably longer loading times compared to the arcade and Neo Geo versions. However, it successfully preserved the core fighting mechanics, character rosters, and overall presentation. With its refined combat system, the introduction of Yorigami, and the ability to customize teams, the King of Fighters 95 was a significant step forward for the series and remains a fan favorite among classic 2D fighting games. The King of Fighters 99 was released on the PlayStation in 2000 following its arcade and Neo Geo debut in 1999. Developed and published by SNK, this installment marked a significant shift in the King of Fighters series by introducing new mechanics and a fresh storyline. The game kicks off the NES saga, moving away from the Orichi saga that defined the previous entries. With Kyo Kusanagi missing in action, a new protagonist, Kei, takes the center stage. He is a mysterious fighter with abilities linked to the Kyo's DNA, hinting at sinister experiments by the secret Nest organization. Meanwhile, a new King of Fighters tournament is announced, drawing fighters into a conspiracy much bigger than they realize. A major gameplay change in King of Fighters 99 is the introduction of the striker system. Instead of the traditional 3-on-3 format, teams now consist of 4 characters, with one acting as a striker who can be summoned during fights to assist with attacks. This mechanic adds a new layer of strategy, allowing players to set up combos and extend their offense in creative ways. The game also features counter mode and armor mode, which enhance offensive and defensive capabilities for a limited time. The PlayStation port includes exclusive content, such as an additional mode called Party Mode and extra striker characters not present in the arcade version. However, like other SNK PlayStation port, it suffers from longer loading times and some graphical downgrades due to the system's limitations. With its darker storyline, new protagonist, and innovative striker system, the King of Fighters 99 brought a fresh direction to the series and laid the foundation for the next storyline that will continue in the following entries. Marvel Super Heroes was released on the PlayStation in 1997 following its original arcade debut in 1995. Developed and published by Capcom, the game is a fast-paced 2D fighting game that builds upon the mechanics introduced in X-Men Children of Atom, incorporating characters from across the Marvel universe in an epic battle for the Infinity Stones. The game's story is inspired by Marvel's Infinity Gauntlet comic storyline, where Thanos the Mad Titan seeks to harness the power of the 6 Infinity Stones: power, time, space, reality, soul, and mind, gathering all to achieve the omnipotence. Players choose from a diverse roster of Marvel heroes and villains, including Spider-Man, Wolverine, Iron Man, Captain America, Hulk, Magneto, each battling for the control of the stones and the chance to stop Thanos' reign of terror. The defining gameplay feature is the Infinity Gem system, which allows players to collect and activate the gems during battle, granting temporary power-ups like increased speed, stronger attacks, or defensive buffs. This adds an extra layer of strategy beyond the standard fighting mechanics seen in Capcom's other games. The combat retains the 6-button layout from Street Fighter series, featuring fast-paced combos, aerial maneuvers, and flashy super moves. While the PlayStation port attempts to replicate the arcade experience, it comes with downgraded visuals and missing animation frames, making it slightly less fluid than its original counterpart. Additionally, load times between fights are longer compared to the Sega Saturn version, which benefited from better hardware for 2D fighters. Despite the limitations, Marvel Super Heroes remains a beloved classic for fans of Marvel and Capcom fighters, setting the stage for future crossover titles like X-Men vs Street Fighter and the Marvel vs Capcom series. Mortal Kombat 3 was released for the PlayStation in 1995, developed by Midway Games. As the third main installment in the Mortal Kombat series, it introduces new mechanics, characters, and a darker, more industrial-themed aesthetic compared to its predecessor. The game's story continues the saga of Shao Kahn, the Emperor of Outworld, who has found a way to merge his realm with Earthrealm, reviving Queen Sindel on Earth as part of his sinister plan. This invasion allows Shao Kahn to steal the souls of Earth's inhabitants, leaving only a handful of warriors to resist his rule. Fighters such as Liu Kang, Sub-Zero, Sonya Blade, and Nightwolf rise to challenge him, while new characters like Cabal, Sector, and Shiva join the fray. The gameplay builds upon Mortal Kombat 2 with faster combat, new special moves, and enhanced combo mechanics. The introduction of the new run button allows players to close distances quickly, leading to more aggressive playstyles. Chain combos bring a more structured combo system compared to the free-flowing juggling of earlier games. fatalities return alongside animalities, brutalities, friendships, and bubbleities, adding variety to the series' signature finishing moves. The PlayStation version of Mortal Kombat 3 closely mirrors the arcade experience, featuring detailed digitized character sprites, smooth gameplay, and an expanded soundscape. However, it lacks some characters and features which found in later updates like in Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 and Mortal Kombat Trilogy. Mortal Kombat 4 was released for the PlayStation in 1998, developed by Midway Games. As the first fully 3D entry in the series, it marked a major shift for Mortal Kombat, transitioning from digitized 2D sprites to polygonal models, while retaining the franchise signature brutal combat and fatalities. The story follows Shinnok, a fallen elder god who escapes from the Netherland with the help of the sorcerer Quan Chi. With his dark army, Shinnok seeks revenge against Raiden and the warriors of Earthrealm. Familiar fighters like Liu Kang, Sub-Zero, Scorpion, and Sonya Blade return alongside new characters such as Fujin, Jarek, and Reiko. Gameplay remains true to the classic Mortal Kombat formula but introduces 3D movement, allowing players to sidestep attacks. The game also adds a weapon system where each fighter can draw a unique weapon mid-battle, ranging from swords to maces, which can be used strategically or even thrown at opponents. Combos, juggling, and special moves continue to be a staple of the gameplay, along with the return of fatalities which take advantage of the new 3D visuals for more dynamic and gruesome executions. While the PlayStation version had reduced graphical fidelity compared to its arcade counterpart, it retained the core gameplay mechanics, cinematic endings, and brutal action that defined the series. Mortal Kombat 4 may not have been as revolutionary as its predecessors, but it served as an important bridge between the classic 2D era and the modern 3D fighting games that followed. Pocket Fighter was released for the PlayStation in 1998, developed and published by Capcom. It is a chibi-style crossover fighting game, featuring characters from Street Fighter, Darkstalkers, and Red Earth, presented in a lighthearted and comedic tone. Unlike traditional Street Fighter titles, Pocket Fighter simplifies combat with a 2-button attack system and an easy-to-use special move button, making it accessible to casual players while still offering depth for fighting game fans. The game also introduces the gem system, where players collect colored gems during fights to power up their special moves, an element borrowed from Gem Fighters and Puzzle Fighter. The roster includes Ryu, Ken, Chun-Li, and Sakura from Street Fighter, Morrigan and Felicia from Darkstalkers, and Tessa from Red Earth, amongst others. Characters also perform comedic and exaggerated transformations during special attacks, referencing various Capcom franchises and pop culture. With its vibrant art style, humorous animation, and accessible mechanics, Pocket Fighter became a beloved casual fighting game, standing out from the more serious titles of its era. Primal Rage was released for the PlayStation in 1997, developed by Atari Games and published by Time Warner Interactive. Originally an arcade title from 1994, the game is a unique take on the fighting genre, featuring prehistoric beasts and gods battling for dominance in a post-apocalyptic world. Set in a dystopian future where Earth, now called Earth, has been ravaged by disaster, 7 primal gods in the form of giant dinosaurs and apes fight to establish their rule. The roster includes characters like Sauron, a T-Rex like carnivore, and Blizzard, a Yeti with ice-based attacks. Each character represents either the forces of virtue or destruction, adding a mythical element to the game's lore. Gameplay features brutal combo-heavy mechanics with unique fatalities, reinforcing the game's savage tone. The distinctive feature is the ability to interact with human worshippers who run across the battlefield and can be eaten or sacrificed to restore health. While the PlayStation version retains the arcade's digitized sprite animation, it suffers from slower gameplay and missing frames compared to the original. Despite its technical flaws, Primal Rage remains a cult classic, remembered for its unique setting, gory combat, and the distinctive prehistoric aesthetic. Rise to Resurrection was released for the PlayStation in 1996, developed by Mirage and published by Acclaim. It is the sequel to Rise of the Robots, a fighting game that was widely criticized for its lackluster gameplay despite its impressive pre-rendered graphics. Rise 2 aimed to improve upon its predecessor by offering expanded mechanics, a large roster, and more refined controls. The game is set in a dystopian cybernetic future where sentient machines battle for supremacy. The player takes control of a robotic warrior fighting through a series of deadly one-on-one matches to overthrow the evil supervisor, an advanced AI that has taken control of the robotic world. Gameplay features a more traditional fighting system compared to the first game, with combo chains, special moves, and an energy-based super attack mechanic. The roster includes over a dozen robotic fighters, each with unique designs and fighting styles. The visuals continue the series' signature pre-rendered aesthetic with detailed metallic character models and futuristic battle arenas. Despite improvements over Rise of the Robots, Rise 2 Resurrection still suffered from stiff controls and sluggish combat, preventing it from competing with top fighting games of its time. However, it remains an interesting relic of the 90s fighting game boom, particularly for fans of cyberpunk and robotic team fighters. Rock'em and Sock'em Arena is a lesser-known 3D fighting game released for the PlayStation, developed by Texan and published by Kaneko. The game is heavily inspired by the concept of robotic battles, similar in theme to Rise of the Robots and One Must Fall 2097, offering players the chance to control mechanized warriors in one-on-one combat. Set in a futuristic tournament-style setting, Rock'em and Sock'em Arena pits powerful combat robots against each other in high-energy fights. Each robot has a unique design featuring different weapons, special moves and fighting styles, emphasizing the mechanical nature of the battles. The game includes a variety of arenas, each with a sci-fi aesthetic that complements the robotic theme. Gameplay-wise, it follows a traditional 3D fighting format, allowing for movement in multiple directions, attack combinations and finishing moves. While it aimed to stand out with its robotic combat theme, Rock'em and Sock'em Arena struggled to compete with bigger fighting game franchises of the time due to its somewhat clunky controls and lack of polish. Rurouni Kenshin is a 3D fighting game released exclusively in Japan for the PlayStation in 1997. Developed and published by Sony Computer Entertainment, the game is based on the popular Rurouni Kenshin anime and manga series created by Nobuhiro Watsuki. The game follows the story of Kenshin Himura, a wandering sportsman with a dark past as an assassin who has vowed never to kill again. Players relive the key moments from the series, battling against iconic characters such as Saito Hajime, Sanosuke Sagara, and Chishisho Makoto in one-on-one duels. Players can dodge, sidestep, and circle opponents in three-dimensional space similar to games like Toshinden or Ehrgeiz. Each fighter comes with a unique combat style faithful to their abilities in the source material. The game features several modes including a loose story mode, versus battles, and practice sessions. While the narrative elements are light, anime-style cutscenes and character dialogue add flavor to the experience. A standout feature is its use of cinematic super moves with anime-inspired visual effects and original Japanese voice acting. Despite its flaws, the game is notable for its faithful anime-style visuals, voice acting from the original cast, and an authentic adaptation of the Rurouni Kenshin storyline. Samurai Showdown 3 Blades of Blood was released for the PlayStation in 1996 in Japan and 1997 in North America, developed and published by SNK. It is the third entry in the Samurai Showdown series, known for its weapon-based combat and deep tactical gameplay. Unlike its predecessors, Samurai Showdown 3 introduces a more aggressive and fast-paced fighting game system, featuring high damage attacks and new mechanics like the slash and bust system, where each character has two different fighting styles with unique movesets. This added variety to the gameplay and encouraged different playstyles. The game also refined its parry system and allowed for air blocking, making battles more defensive and strategic. Despite these innovations, Samurai Showdown 3 was known for its unbalanced roster, with some characters being significantly stronger than others. Visually, the game featured darker, more detailed sprites and backgrounds compared to its predecessor, enhancing the series' signature feudal Japanese aesthetic. The PlayStation version, however, suffered from long loading times and cut down animation frames, making it an inferior port compared to the arcade and Neo Geo versions. Despite its flaws, Samurai Showdown 3 remains a bold but divisive entry in the franchise, marking the series' transition into more complex and aggressive gameplay mechanics. Samurai Showdown Warriors Rage was released for the PlayStation in 1999 in Japan and 2000 in North America, developed and published by SNK. Unlike previous Samurai Showdown titles, this game was a 3D fighting game, making it a unique entry in the franchise. Set many years after the earlier games, Warriors Rage introduces a new cast of characters with only a few returning fighters. The story revolves around a conflict in the land of Ritenkyo, a lawless island ruled by a tyrannical faction. Players take control of warriors who seek to challenge this oppressive rule. Gameplay shifts from the series' traditional 2D weapon-based combat to a slower-paced 3D fighting system. It retains core mechanics like weapon clashes and powerful special moves, but the transition to 3D resulted in clunkier movement and sluggish controls, which were criticized by fans of the series. The game features a story mode giving each character their own arc, but its roster of mostly new fighters and departure from classic mechanics made it a controversial title. While it attempted to bring Samurai Showdown into the 3D fighting era, it was ultimately seen as one of the weaker entries in the series. Soul Blade, known as Soul Edge in Japan, was released for the PlayStation in 1996 in Japan and 1997 in North America and Europe. It was developed by Project Soul and published by Namco. It served as the precursor to the Soul Calibur series, making it a landmark title in weapon-based 3D fighting games. Set in the late 16th century, the story revolves around the cursed sword, the Soul Edge, and the warriors seeking to either claim or destroy it. The roster includes characters like Siegfried, Mitsurugi, Sophitia, and Taki, each with unique weapons and fighting styles. Gameplay builds upon the Tekken-style 3D movement but emphasizes weapons over hand-to-hand combat. A unique feature is the weapon meter, which depletes when blocking attacks. If it runs out, the fighter's weapon breaks, forcing them to fight unarmed. The Edge Master meter is another highlight, offering a story-driven single-player experience where fighters unlock new weapons with different attributes. Soul Blade set the foundation for what would later become Soul Calibur, making it one of the most influential weapon-based fighters of its time. Star Gladiator Episode 1 Final Crusade was released for the PlayStation in 1996, developed and published by Capcom. It is Capcom's first 3D fighting game introducing a futuristic sci-fi take on the genre with weapon-based combat. Set in the 21st century, the game follows a group of warriors fighting against Dr. Edward Bilstein, a mad scientist who has developed plasma-powered weaponry and plans to dominate the galaxy. The protagonist Hayato Kanzaki wields a plasma sword and leads a rebellion against Bilstein forces, including characters like June, Saturn, and the sinister Gore. The gameplay is fast-paced and fluid, featuring 8-way movement and a plasma strike system which allowed fighters to execute powerful special attacks. Unlike traditional Capcom 2D fighters, Star Gladiator embraces 3D mechanics, incorporating sidesteps and a more dynamic arena-based combat approach. Although not as well known as Street Fighter, Star Gladiator laid the groundwork for its sequel, Plasma Sword, and remains a cult classic for fans of Capcom's experimental fighting games. Star Wars Masters of Teras was released for the PlayStation in 1997, developed and published by LucasArts. It is a 3D fighting game set in the Star Wars universe, offering a unique take on the genre by featuring iconic characters from the franchise in one-on-one battles. The story takes place between A New Hope and The Empire Strikes Back, with the Galactic Empire seeking revenge for the destruction of the Death Star. The Emperor employs Arden Lin, a master of the ancient Teras Kasai martial art, to eliminate the Rebel Alliance's strongest warriors. In response, heroes like Luke Skywalker, Han Solo, Princess Leia and Chewbacca enter the fight alongside Darth Vader and Boba Fett. The gameplay features hand-to-hand combat mixed with lightsaber and blaster-based attacks, setting it apart from traditional fighting games. Each character has their own unique weapons and force abilities. The game also includes sidestepping mechanics for 3D movement, special moves, and destructible elements in the environment. Despite its ambitious premise, Masters of Teras Kasai received mixed reviews due to clunky controls and stiff animations, but it remains a notable entry in the Star Wars gaming history, especially for fans interested in a rare Star Wars fighting game. Street Fighter Alpha 3 was released for the PlayStation in 1999, developed and published by Capcom. It is the third entry in the Street Fighter Alpha series, refining its mechanics and introducing new gameplay systems that set it apart from its predecessors. The game features an extensive roster of fighters, including returning characters like Ryu, Ken, Chun-Li, and Akuma, alongside newcomers such as Karin, Mika, and Cody from Final Fight. The story follows various characters in their journeys, with Bison and Shadowlu's evil schemes playing a central role. A defining feature of Alpha 3 is the ISM system, allowing players to choose from 3 fighting styles. AISM is a classic mode with super combos similar to Street Fighter Alpha 2. XISM is based on Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, offering stronger attacks but fewer defensive options. VISM allows custom combos, emphasizing speed and offense. The new Guard Crush system adds an extra layer of strategy, punishing overly light defense play. The PlayStation version includes an expanded World Tour mode where players improve their fighters by gaining experience and unlocking abilities. With fast-paced gameplay, deep mechanics, and a rich character roster, Street Fighter Alpha 3 remains one of the most beloved entries in the franchise, standing as a classic of the PlayStation fighting game library. Street Fighter Alpha Warrior's Dreams was released for the PlayStation in 1996, developed and published by Capcom. It serves as a prequel to Street Fighter 2 set between the events of the original Street Fighter and its iconic sequel. The game introduces anime-inspired visuals, faster gameplay, and new mechanics, making it a fresh take on the franchise. The roster includes a mix of returning fighters and newcomers such as Ryu, Ken, Chun-Li, and Sagat, alongside debut characters like Charlie, Nash, and Rose. The storyline focuses on Bison's rise to power with his Shadowloo organization, while various fighters pursue their own personal quests. One of the key innovations in Street Fighter Alpha is the super combo system, allowing characters to execute powerful multi-hit attacks by filling a meter. The game also introduces chain combos, letting players string together basic attacks for fluid high-speed combos. Another major addition is the Alpha Counter, a defensive mechanic that lets players counterattack while blocking, adding a new layer of strategy. With its stylized art, refined mechanics, and new gameplay elements, Street Fighter Alpha Warrior's Dreams was a significant evolution in the Street Fighter series, setting the stage for future entries and establishing the Alpha sub-series as a fan favorite. Street Fighter Collection was released for the PlayStation in 1997, developed and published by Capcom. It is a compilation title that brings together multiple classic Street Fighter games in one package, aimed at fans who wanted a definitive experience on home consoles. The collection is split into 2 discs. Disc 1 features Super Street Fighter 2, refined version of the original Street Fighter 2, and Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, which introduced the Super Combo system and the hidden character Akuma. Disc 2 contains Street Fighter Alpha 2 Gold, an updated version of Street Fighter Alpha 2 featuring gameplay tweaks, additional moves, and the inclusion of Evil Ryu as playable character. The games retain their arcade-perfect gameplay with sprite-based visuals, tight mechanics, and competitive fighting depth. While the collection does not introduce major new features, it serves as an excellent retrospective of Capcom's fighting game evolution during the 1990s, offering 3 legendary titles in one package. Street Fighter X Plus Alpha was released for the PlayStation in 1997, developed by Arika and published by Capcom. This title is an enhanced console version of Street Fighter X, marking the first 3D entry in the legendary Street Fighter franchise. Unlike traditional Street Fighter games, X Plus Alpha features polygonal 3D models instead of the 2D sprites, but retains the classic 2D gameplay mechanics. The roster includes returning favorites like Ryu, Ken, Chun-Li, and Guile, alongside original X characters such as Skullomania, Garuda, and Kairi. The game introduced super cancelling, allowing players to chain super combos into each other, creating devastating multi-hit combos. The guard break mechanics adds another layer of offense, letting players shatter an opponent's defense. This PlayStation exclusive version includes extra characters not found in the arcade version, such as Dalsim, Sakura, and an unlockable Evil Ryu. It also boasts enhanced graphics, additional gameplay modes, and a smoother frame rate, making it a definitive home version of Street Fighter X. Despite its departure from traditional 2D visuals, Street Fighter X Plus Alpha was well received for its fast-paced gameplay, deep combo system, and unique character rosters, earning its place as a memorable experiment in the Street Fighter series. Wu-Tang Shaolin Style was released for the PlayStation in 1999, developed by Paradox Development and published by Activision. The game is a 4-player 3D fighting title heavily inspired by the Wu-Tang Clan, both in the theme and presentation, featuring the group's music, personas, and martial arts influences. The story follows the Wu-Tang Clan as they train under their kidnapped master, Master Shin, while facing off against the villainous Monk Zhu and his deadly assassins. The game incorporates Shaolin Kung Fu themes, reflecting the group's deep appreciation for martial arts culture. Using an evolved version of the Thrill Kill engine, Shaolin Style features brutal, over-the-top combat, fatality-style finishing moves, and a 4-player battle mode, making it a standout from traditional one-on-one fighters. Each Wu-Tang Clan member is a playable fighter with unique movesets inspired by Shaolin martial arts styles, alongside unlockable characters and secret content. The game is remembered for its dark, violent atmosphere, unique Wu-Tang branding, and hard-hitting hip-hop soundtrack, making it a cult classic among fans of both fighting games and the legendary rap group. X-Men Mutant Academy was released for the PlayStation in 2000, developed by Paradox Development and published by Activision. It is a 2.5D fighting game based on Marvel's X-Men franchise, featuring a roster of iconic mutants battling in one-on-one combat. The game follows a traditional fighting game structure, where players select from a lineup of popular X-Men characters including Wolverine, Cyclops, Storm, Gambit, Beast, and Magneto, each with their own special moves and abilities that reflect their comic book powers. The story mode loosely follows the X-Men's battles against their classic enemies, with each fighter having their own unique ending. Built with fast-paced gameplay, Mutant Academy incorporates combos, super moves and character-specific abilities, making it accessible to both casual and competitive players. The game's visuals and animations capture the comic book aesthetic, and the inclusion of unlockable customs and hidden characters adds replay value. Though was not as deep as other major fighting games of the era, X-Men Mutant Academy was praised for its faithful representation of the X-Men universe, leading to a sequel, X-Men Mutant Academy 2, which refined the gameplay further. Zero Divide was released for the PlayStation in 1995, developed by Zoom and published by Ocean Software in North America and Europe. It is a 3D fighting game with a distinct sci-fi and cybernetic theme, featuring robotic combatants battling in a futuristic digital world. The game takes place in a virtual reality network where rogue AI-controlled machines must be defeated to restore order. Players choose from a roster of mechanized fighters, each with unique moves and abilities. Unlike many traditional fighting games, Zero Divide features destructible armor, meaning fighters can lose parts of their bodies as battles progress, affecting their mobility and attacks. The gameplay is reminiscent of early 3D fighters like Virtua Fighter, with a focus on technical combat, counters and precise movement. One of its standout features is the ability to cling to walls and use the environment strategically, adding a layer of depth to battles. Though Zero Divide wasn't as popular as other major fighting franchises of its time, it gained a cult following due to its smooth 3D graphics, strategic combat mechanics and futuristic aesthetic. It later received sequels including Zero Divide 2 and Zero Divide: The Final Conflict. Ready 2 Rumble Boxing was released for the PlayStation in 1999, developed by Midway Studios San Diego and published by Midway Games. It is a arcade-style boxing game known for its exaggerated character designs, over-the-top action and humorous presentation. The game features a roster of colorful, cartoonish boxers, each with their own unique personality, fighting style and special moves. Unlike realistic boxing simulators, Ready 2 Rumble Boxing embraces fast-paced gameplay, exaggerated punches and dramatic knockouts. The highlight of the game is the Rumble meter, which builds up as players land successful hits. Once it's full, fighters can unleash a powerful rumble combo capable of dealing massive damage and turning the tide of the battle. The game was praised for its fluid animations, entertaining characters and fun arcade-style mechanics. It became a commercial success, spawning a sequel, Ready 2 Rumble Boxing Round 2, and remains one of the most beloved boxing games of its era. Mortal Kombat 2 was released for the PlayStation in 1996, developed by Midway Games and published by Acclaim Entertainment. Originally an arcade title from 1993, this PlayStation 1 port brought the brutal and fast-paced fighting action of the classic sequel to home consoles. Building on the success of the original Mortal Kombat 2 expanded the roster, introducing new fighters like Kitana, Milena, Kung Lao and Baraka, while bringing back fan favorites such as Liu Kang, Scorpion, Sub-Zero and Raiden. The story picks up after Shang Tsung was defeated, as the warriors are lured into Outworld where they must battle the sinister Shao Kahn. Gameplay improvements included faster combat, expanded movesets, multiple fatalities per character, and new finishing moves like abilities and friendships, adding to the game's signature mix of violence and dark humor. The PlayStation version featured arcade-accurate visuals and gameplay, but suffered from long loading times, which were a common issue in early CD-based fighting games. Despite that, Mortal Kombat 2 remained one of the most beloved titles in the series, praised for its deeper mechanics, darker tone and refined combat system, solidifying its place as one of the most greatest fighting games of its era. So that was it, all fighting games released on the PlayStation 1. Let me know which one was your favorite. Let me know if you think I happen to miss any games. And if you made it this far in the video and have not subscribed yet, please consider doing so. I would greatly appreciate it. I was Gabe and I see you in the next one. Until then, keep gaming.